Today on the Cameron Journal podcast, I am joined by Wil Cuandros. He is from Newton's First Clothing. For those of us who are larger in every way of our lives, but especially our bodies, shopping for clothes is absolutely terrible. And this new brand is athleisure clothing for the larger person. Now, everyone knows that if you're a larger person and you try to go find anything athletic or works out in the gym or all this type of thing, the clothing manufacturers are against you. You're already fat and they do not want to give you clothes to help you lose weight or even just feel comfortable or have great fits like your friends. Well, Will says screw all of that, and he's come to our rescue. And I already know and love him from the Winston box. We'll get to that at some point. For whom I'm a brand ambassador. And but I'm excited about this athleisure brand because I have a really great set of pants that I have been addicted to wearing. They came in the Winston box. I've been addicted to wearing them. So if that's how they do athleisure, this stuff's going to be amazing. So welcome, Will, to the Cameron Journal podcast.
I'm very thankful to be here, and thanks for the warm introduction. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, absolutely. We were talking a little bit about how you got the name for Newton's First Clothing right before we pressed record. So why don't we pick up that conversation already in progress? And why don't you tell us a little bit about the company and how you decided to name it that way?
Absolutely. So, as we were thinking and trying to come up with a name that was unique, but that also was organic, that made sense, we wanted something that kind of talked about our mission. And the idea of Newton's first came because Newton's first law of motion is that a body remains in motion unless acted upon by an external force. And I thought to myself, wow, that really is, in a nutshell, what a big and tall man goes through in his everyday life. Our bodies are constantly in motion, but they are acted upon by the external force of uh, poor fabrics, poor design, bad fit. So what we're striving to do is we're striving to kind of break that mold, break the law of physics, if you will, by providing guys with comfort first fabrics that stretch, that are breathable, that basically allow you to be free to move as you wish, basically not acting against your body, but acting with your body. So that's Newton's first, and that's how we got our name, and that's our mission. We're breaking the laws of physics.
I like it. I like it a lot. Like I said in the intro, in the last box, I got there was a great pair of black athleisure pants. They have been my go-to. Like they literally
Awesome.
I've worn them like a month straight. And when I was working with Emma, who brought us together, and I'm kind of like, oh, if this is any indication of the type of clothing that they're going to make, this is going to be amazing. Because like I found these, I'm like, I am addicted. I would buy three more pair if I could find them. Like this is absolutely addicting, and I'm just because it's one of those things. The thing I love about them is, and I said this in my review initially, is they're structured in a very chic way, but yet they're very comfortable. So when you're going out and doing something, doesn't look like you're wearing sweatpants. It just feels like you're wearing sweatpants. And I think I mean, I don't know if you found this with athleisure. I think athleisure is most successful in that sweet spot where it's comfortable and works with your body, like you said, but it still looks okay. You feel comfortable going to a doctor's office, an event, dinner with friends, all this type of thing. Have you found that?
Exactly. That's actually the space that we want to play in. I mean, there are brands out there that do make kind of quote unquote athletic clothing. You can get a t-shirt, you can get a pair of workout shorts. That's not the challenge, right? The challenge is finding something that's very similar to that aesthetic that you will find with Lululemon, with Viore. It's that kind of comfort first, kind of some people call it athleisure. I like to call it work leisure, where it's a button-up shirt, it's a pair of pants, it's a polo, it's a jogger, but it doesn't look like something you'd want to necessarily work out. And you could, but it's something
Right.
that you can take. It's versatile. Whether you're going to pitch a sales meeting, whether you're going to see your kid pitch at a baseball game at Little League on a weekend, these are
Right.
items that you can wear and be comfortable in, and comfortable in your own skin. That's really the genesis of everything. As a big and tall guy who I was in the fashion industry. I worked in education. I sat in a cubicle and, would sit down and, my buttons kind of like trying to hold on for dear life. I'm not comfortable. I'm constantly, pulling and tucking and trying to stay tucked in. And, those are the things that we're trying to alleviate with Newton's First, right? We're trying to allow people to have kind of more comfortable, casual clothing that would work in a business class or a business casual setting, rather,
Yeah.
but would also be something that you could take to the gym if you were inclined to do so, that you could work out in if you were inclined to do so. So yeah, we're definitely trying to bridge that gap, and we're trying to, we think of ourselves as Lululemon, but bigger, trying to kind of have that aesthetic, but actually serving the big and tall community, which other athleisure brands have unfortunately failed to do.
Yeah, and that's, I think, something I want to focus my question on that next. I have been fat forever. So I have, watched how the fashion industry in when I was a kid didn't know who a large person was, to finally maybe a little bit be kind of like, oh, right, larger people. Like maybe we should talk about that.
Right.
Um, but I do find it interesting that in the athleisure space, this is all about, comfort and ease, especially coming out of the pandemic. The rest of the industry, especially for men, have left us behind. Who knows, who care, all this type of thing. Um, I find that a little bit odd and a mildly disturbing. Do you find that weird, or is it just kind of normal for what it is in men's fashion?
I mean, it's unfortunate, but it's normal, right? I mean, I'm a little bit older than you, perhaps, so I still remember when I was growing up, when I'd have to walk into the Husky section at Sears. And before it was called Big and Tall, it was Husky, and my Levi's had a little H on them just to remind me that you're not quite there, right? So those are the things that I kind of carry from my childhood, and that's just kind of the way it's always been. And yeah, when you think about it, I mean, let's talk about what you just said. Um, Athleisure has been in demand worldwide, especially because of the pandemic, right?
Yeah.
The global sales have reached over $400 billion since 2020. There's a projected average growth rate of 6.6% from 2021 to 2028. So it's in demand worldwide. And then once again, you can't find big and tall sizes. Not to call out specific competitors, but I will use Lululemon as an example. They're very great at what they do. But for example, I'm between a 2XL and a 3XL personally in my sizes. I can't fit into a 2X, 3X Lulu. Lululemon, when I finally find a shirt that fits, it's only available online. They only make a few of them, and I'm a 5X in Lulu. But the 5X isn't cut right for me because, yeah, to get for my chest to fit properly, the shoulders kind of hang down to here, the arms are way too long, so it's just not cut for me. And that's fine. That they understand their customer. They're probably looking for somebody that maybe is more of a football player build. I get that. But who better than a big and tall person to take advantage of stretchy fabrics, of breathable fabrics, of wrinkle-free fabrics? Those are the things that kind of,
Yes.
as a big and tall person, when you're trying to look presentable, when you're at the office, those are the big keys, right? You're sweaty. Sometimes you're a little wrinkly. Your stuff's untucked. You're definitely not comfortable sitting down at an event or sitting down in a chair. So those are the things that we're trying to alleviate. So yes, I find it odd, but it is kind of just par for the course in the fashion industry. We're kind of the forgotten, and they'll throw us a bone once in a while. But yeah, when you consider how in demand athleisure is and what a natural fit these types of fabrics and cuts are for a big and tall person to feel comfortable, it's a
Yeah.
little odd that nobody's bridging that gap, and that's why we're here.
Well, and that's even in the familiar brands that I am familiar with, because I only shop clothes at two places, because I'm bigger than you, broadish,
Mhm.
all this type of thing. I buy clothes at two places. Um, uh, Still, there's even in those places, there's really kind of a lack of this sort of thing.
Right.
I was just down at Destination XL. No athletic stuff, a little bit. No real kind of athleisurely Lululemon type of stuff. King size catalog. I've been a customer for 20 years. They're not even in that market. They don't exist. Does not, none, no help there, sort of thing. So I mean, I think just such a huge opportunity.
It
Um,
is. And like if you do it, like you hit the nail on the head. Athletic clothing, it exists. So if you type in athleisure in the search bar at DXL, if you type in athleisure in the search bar at King Size, you get stuff from Reebok, stuff from Nike, but it's clearly stuff for you to go to the gym, for you to kind of work out in,
Right.
for you to
I
sweat in.
can't go
It's
to a
not that
networking
athleisure.
event. Yeah, I can't, you don't want to. You're definitely changing clothes with those outfits for sure.
For sure, for sure.
Yes, but no, those lovely black pants. Oh my, I can go to a networking event. I can do whatever. I mean, even my in my initial review when I first did the unboxing, I said, "Oh, I could actually I can use these to take out the trash, run the groceries in, and still make a networking event without ever changing pants." Nowadays, especially as someone who works for myself, who's always coming and going and all the. I mean, this recording is the fourth meeting today. Like, sort of thing, who's always coming and going and lots is happening and all this type of thing. That's really powerful. Um, and that's something that, especially as a larger person, I think people forget we're not just all chained to the couch eating bonbons, watching TV. We actually do have lives. We do things, sort of
Right.
thing. And I think it's so great to have clothing that finally works in harmony with that.
Yeah, that's exciting to hear. That pair of pants. So just for the audience, information. So in our most recent Winston box, or one of our most recent Winston boxes, we sent out a pair of joggers that are French Terry. So definitely a little bit more kind of on the athletic side of athleisure, right?
Yeah.
And they're cut a little bit, to be a little bit more tapered, a little bit more flattering. We don't want that bagginess necessarily. And so that was the first iteration of what we envisioned Newton's first to be. It was kind of a test run, so to speak.
Yes.
And that is going to be kind of, you'll see products like that in Newton's first, but you'll also see, for example, our first pants and shirts that are dropping in June. It's actually looks much more like a pair of pants. It's something you would find perhaps at Jack Archer or the ABC pant from Lululemon. It's structured to be cut like a pant. It's got that construction of the pant with the belt loops and everything like that. But the material is very comfortable. It's moisture wicking. You can put it in the dryer really quickly and kind of it dries really quickly, washes well. And it's comfortable. It's stretchy. So it's exactly kind of what you experience with those French Terry joggers, which is just a true jogger. But our first drop is going to be pants and a button up, and we're really excited. We actually did some video shoots last week. I was in LA, and we wanted to show the extreme capabilities of the garments. Not that you would necessarily want to work out with them, but it was funny to have some of our models in pants and a shirt at Muscle Beach in LA, weightlifting weights on the basketball courts in Venice Beach, kind of dunking the ball. I got a guy that does parkour who was doing so, just kind of showing off the fact that you can really take these garments to the extreme, the way they're designed to be kind of worn in the office, but they're engineered to perform.
Yes. No, and I think, given how life can go sometimes, all this everything, I think that ability to be able to go out in something that's casual but still chic and looks good, that's comfortable, I think is really tremendous. And I love, like I said, I love them for being able to go to a networking event, take out the trash, take in the groceries, all this type of thing, never have to change clothes. Fantastic. So now turning to the kind of the fashion business as a whole, when it comes to menswear and big and tall stuff and all this type of thing. That there it seems like there's so kind of not there's not a lot of retailers, but there's a lot of either mainstream brands that are to flex into it or other small brands. What do you think really makes Newton's First different?
Well, first of all, I think it's what we're trying to do, right? We're not just another t-shirt company. There's plenty of those online. We're not just another jean company. We're definitely trying to fill a niche that's not filled yet, right? That athleisure space that you have so many other competitors fighting for dollars in the quote unquote standard sizes. I think that's what makes us different. Number two, what makes us different is that we have 8 years of experience now having been owners of the Winston box. And so we've had over the last 8 years, quote unquote, test subjects, if you will. We've had trial and error to be able to identify the right sizes, the right cuts that the majority of our members and our customers can wrap their heads around and be comfortable with. You got to keep in mind, we started off I was in educational sales. I was a vice president of admissions for an online college. My business partner was the IT director. So we had zero experience. I had essentially what amounts to a small midlife crisis. And I decided to just jump into the fashion industry with zero experience. And it definitely showed in the very beginning, right? We made a lot of mistakes along the way. But, over the last 8 years, we've been able to kind of come to kind of a sizing and a pattern and a fit that we feel that we could put our best foot forward with a different product line that's a little bit more upscale. And that's what we did with with Newton's First. And so not only is it just kind of the fact that we're filling a space that's needed, but also that we have 8 years of kind of trial and error to build some sizing and build some fits that we feel are going to allow us to take this company to the next level.
Yeah, no. That's very good. No, I'm sure it probably feels like that question's a little bit redundant. I asked that for a TikTok short because now I know where that made you did it. You were perfect. You said absolutely perfect. I'll make an excellent short for YouTube and TikTok. Um,
Awesome.
so it yes, that was a little bit of a setup sort of thing. What do you think is the biggest challenge in the big and tall men's space? Because I'm surprised that there isn't more players given, you know, people are bigger than they used to be, men are half the population. It seems like I don't know, it seems like there's just, no one wants to touch it with a 10-foot pole. And so do you think there's a specific reason for that? Is it just too hard or too difficult, or do people just not care?
It's a great question. I mean, I asked myself over 8 years ago when we started the Winston box, why wasn't there a subscription box for big and tall guys? It didn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
The reason how we started the Winston box a little over 8 years ago was I was sitting on the couch, getting a Facebook ad for a subscriptions box, and lo and behold, they didn't have my size 3X. Not a shocker, right? But I started looking. I'm like, wait, why doesn't anybody else have this? And for the subscription box, the answer was fairly simple. There just weren't enough brands. Subscription boxes primarily, they are just they're that in between like a Ross or a TJ Maxx or a Marshalls, right? For brands that don't want to see their clothes get deeply discounted into the Burlington rack, right? But they so they this is so a subscription box kind of fills that need. It kind of creates that curated box. It allows brands to kind of put some off-season stuff into those boxes. But a big and tall subscription box didn't exist because there just simply weren't enough brands to offload that type of merchandise. So our solution was to just create our own line. There are a few brands out there that or subscription boxes out there that were just basically there. The box was a vehicle to get in front of a customer, but they were designing their own line, and we decided to do that as well. So in that process of learning a little bit more about the fashion industry and big and tall, I came to the realization of a few things. First of all, for a lot of them, it is just, you know, um, it is a big cost. I know some people like to complain about the cost of clothing and why we get charged more for bigger sizes. But look, I can tell you, as somebody who started their own clothing line, I get it. Unless you're having some fabric custom made, typically most rolls of fabric are, a particular width, and so when you get to a bigger size, it just doesn't fit on that particular width of fabric, right? The pattern doesn't. So there's a lot more wasted fabric because instead of putting two body panels side by side, you have to bring one on top of the other, and you lose all this fabric that's over here. You can't really do much with it anymore. Maybe make a pocket. That's about it. So there's waste. And some companies, especially in fast fashion, especially when bottom line is about everything, they just don't want to deal with that additional expense. For the smaller companies out there, there's a lot of brands out there that have a lot of potential. Unfortunately, Facebook and Instagram and a lot of social media marketing, it used to be a lot more, it used to be a lot easier to get into. It used to be a lot less expensive. A few years ago, I can tell you that Facebook made a change as a result of a lot of, uh, people complaining or concerns about privacy and their data being shared. So they started eliminating certain things that you could target. So many years ago, when we first started, we had the ability to target big and tall um, purchases and behavior. In other words, if you bought big and tall online, Facebook knew about it and they would serve our ads to those particular customers. Well, they took that away. We don't have the ability to specifically serve our ads to those customers anymore. So now it becomes more challenging because now we have to cast a wider net. We have to have a lot more trial and error with our ads. We see a lot of our ads get served to customers that are not definitely our demo. And if you've ever seen ads for companies like ourselves, One Bone, DXL, and you'll get the occasional smart guy who needs to remind us that we should probably work out or that we should have a salad. That's because Facebook is serving our ads to people that aren't basically our customers. And what
Right.
does that do? That raises the price. That raises the price of our average acquisition cost. That raises our marketing cost. And forcing a company like ours that's gotten to the point where we can weather those types of increases, it's good. But if you're a small company starting out, And yeah, if you don't have a way to generate a lot of publicity through some organic TikTok or some organic Instagram, then good luck because it's harder to get into that space now. So that's why I think you see, even though we've had a lot of talk about body positivity over the last few years, about inclusivity. We've had people like Zach Mikos break the mold, becoming the first big and tall male model. We've had a lot of good traction trying to talk about the importance of inclusivity, but we haven't had the brands to follow suit, and I think that's really why it's just becoming harder to market, harder to reach, and it's becoming prohibitive for newer companies to start out.
No, I mean that, yes. And on top of, it's difficult, times now economically anyway, and the fashion industry is very fluid and very dynamic.
That's correct.
And when things change economically, fashion has to change at double the speed of the rest of society, sort of thing. So as someone who was not in fashion, decided to do this, what has been the thing that surprised you most about starting a fashion company?
Wow, I mean, there was so much. I sometimes joke that if I'd known what I was getting
We all
myself
have
into, I
that
would have
one moment
stayed.
where you're kind of like, why did I do this? Who said I should do
Exactly.
this?
I've had that a few times, and it's like, man, I should have just stayed what I was doing. But no, I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed, being my own boss, so to speak, and kind of being able to build something. But for me, the biggest aha moment was, I guess, coming to the realization that not every big and tall guy wants to kind of step outside of their comfort zone or wants to be adventurous. Now, is that because kind of society has kind of pigeonholed big and tall guys and told, we get the usual thing, no horizontal stripes, always wear black, right? Those are the things that are ingrained in us sometimes as a big and tall guy. There's certain things that are slimming, there's certain things that aren't. You should want to wear the stuff that's slimming. So when we started the subscription box and we started sending out garments to customers, and we were using current trends in the industry as the inspiration for the items that we were sending in boxes, I was surprised as to how much pushback we got. The Winston box started off as a very, very more fashion forward company, and we got a little bit more conservative in our designs as we went along. And that was because we just needed to survive and we needed to retain customers. And the fact of the matter was that for every couple people that were complaining that we weren't pushing the envelope enough, there was guys that were sitting back and saying us, "Hey, I would never wear this color. Hey, this is not for me. Hey, this is not what I'm used to." So I guess that was a big shock for me, is that not every big and tall guy necessarily wants to change. They want to be comfortable in the stuff they're already used to. And if you were going to introduce change, we're going to introduce that a little bit more slowly. And that really affected a lot of what we did for the Winston box for the past few years, where we started off trying to do something really cool and fashionable, and it became just a little bit more a little, I want to say basic is the right word, because but we're trying to be a little bit more conservative in design. That's why we decided to start Newton's first, because we wanted to have a company that was a little bit more kind of on trend, that was following those trends that are currently active in the industry, and athleisure is definitely that one. And so we could still incorporate some of those pieces into the Winston box for our customers, but have a separate entity, a separate brand where we can grow and have a little bit more creativity, a more creative outlet, so to speak,
Yeah.
while keeping the Winston box, a little bit more standard and kind of middle of the road.
No, no. It's funny you should mention that because I had noticed that as a customer and as the clothes kind of got more tight, I actually unsubscribed for a while because it was because kind of, I was like, oh, this is, I can get this at Blair.com. It's like this is the same. That was the thing I always hated about big and tall fashion for the longest time is it was so boring.
Right.
For me, it was especially as a young person, it was a huge advent to be able to be even close to maybe kind of sort of trendy sort of thing. Because
Hmm.
the mall was no help for, me sort of thing. So that was really cool to kind of have that. But I will say in the last couple years, as I eventually resubscribed and then became a brand ambassador, which is really exciting. And all this sort of thing. Now I'm older and I'm more embracing of some more of the basic stuff. Not that I still don't wear crazy stuff because this pattern is doing the most. And all this type of thing. But I definitely, kind of understand that and embrace a little bit more now as well too. And yeah, and those pants are absolutely fantastic. So, I'm
Thank
looking
you.
forward
I
to,
appreciate
yes.
that.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to more of that. And I'm not really an athleisure person. Like I mean, for me, the pandemic was a huge adjustment because I wasn't wearing jeans every day. And, I always was very put together. I owned a vintage boutique. I wore suits every day. I have an extensive wardrobe of all sorts of accessories and clothes and fabrics that people would not necessarily want to wear all the time. So for me to finally embrace that, to find something that I felt like I could really embrace with that and not feel frumpy and dowdy and like I hadn't really put myself together was really, really, really cool. So I think all of your efforts, you got a good thing going. You got a good thing
Yeah,
going.
we're excited. Look, don't let the jacket fool you. I mean, this is professional courtesy today. I mean, if you would have seen me 10, 12 years ago, same thing, suited and booted, tie and everything. And I always kind of felt, frumpy dressing kind of just in sweats. But, that's because athleisure isn't necessarily sweats, or the other way around. Sweats aren't necessarily athleisure, right?
Yes.
There is a cut, there is particular aesthetic that defines athleisure. And I think when I wear those items, I feel put together, even if I'm dressed down. And I think that's what we're trying to
Yes.
impart in these is giving you that feeling and that confidence of being put together, of being well dressed for the occasion, even if you're comfortable, right? I think that that's always been the
Yes.
trade-off for a lot of guys, but especially for big and tall, is you're trading off comfort and for formality, so to speak, right? So I think that that's where we're going to really kind of see a difference in what we do at Newton's First, is having people feel as if they're dressed up, feel that they're in the moment, and but also still having the advantage of being comfortable, which is so huge. And a
Yes.
big confidence booster, right? I mean, we've all been there.
Yes.
I've had to, last year I had to go to an event and I hadn't worn a suit in a while, and I put it on. I had to get it altered because I'm a little bit of a weird cut. So my standard drop on a pair of pants, have to get the pants completely taken out in order to fit properly with the jacket. And so man, I was walking around like hoping something wouldn't break, kind of just basically kind of leaning in at an angle, sitting down because I'm trying to hold it all together. I just didn't feel comfortable, and we've all been there where we've had to kind of walk around almost on pins and needles, trying not to break anything. And there's no way to live, man. I'm all about comfort now. I'm all about feeling good in my own skin. It took me 40 something years to get here, and I'm just trying to, in my own way, help guys get to that a lot faster than I did.
No, no, absolutely, absolutely. I appreciate that. Well, I'm not gonna keep you. This has been fascinating conversation. I think it's just been such a journey that you've been on, and thank you for letting me be a part of it as a customer and as the brand ambassador for Winston Box, and now coming on the show is amazing and just, thank you for letting me be part of your journey. It's been really great.
Thank, Thank you for the invitation. And I got to tell you that, we at 8 years in, we don't get a chance to talk a lot often to customers, right? So sincerely, I get the opportunity to say face to face to you. Thank you for the kind words. Thank you for believing in us. And it's positive words like this that kind of make us want to continue on our mission of just kind of designing clothes that are cool, that fit well, and impacting people's lives in one way or another.
Yes, yes. No, I'm gonna ask you how to get a hold of support better after we're off. But because I didn't get my box last month, so we're gonna talk about that. But for now, why don't you tell us how we can find Newton's First online?
You'll find us at newtonsfirstclothing.com.
And I understand from Emma that the it's launching in June.
Yes, a
Yes,
little
so
bit
it'll be
delayed,
launched by
probably
the time this comes out.
middle of June. Absolutely.
Yes, excellent. Yes, this will be airing in a little while. So yes, that's exciting. So everyone make sure to check that out. And if you are a bigger dude and need a great clothing subscription box, obviously Winston Box, my referral link will be in the description. Um and we'll go from there. So well, thank you so much for coming on the Cameron Journal podcast.
Thank you, Cam. I really appreciate it.
That's all for this episode of the Cameron Journal podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Visit us online at CameronJournal.com. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and I love to talk to my followers and listeners, so please feel free to get us on social media at Cameron Cowan on Twitter. And we'll see you next time on the Cameron Journal Podcast.